Pentecoid did not know what a crab was. "What is a crab?" Pentecoid asked, and Scarchin replied, "When Manitou, the great power, finished populating the river with everything our village required, pine trees for canoes, deer to feed us in summer, geese and oysters for winter, he saw that they were grateful and well disposed and taken care of. So, in his grace, he created one thing more, to stand as a token of his caring and his eternal concern. He made the crab and hid him in our salty waters." Women in the crowd asked what he had said so far and then prompted him to add details that interested them. "A crab provides little food, so he is not easy to eat. But the little he does offer is the best food under the sky. To eat crab, you must work, which makes you appreciate him more. He is the blessing, the remembrance, and no man or woman ever ate enough." Pentecoid listened with growing respect as Scarchin reported on this delicacy, and when the oration ended, he asked tentatively, "Could I taste one?" "They only come in summer." "Didn't you dry any?" This question, when interpreted, brought laughter, which ended when the girl moved forward to indicate that the meat of the crab was so delicate it had to be eaten immediately. Her fine fingers danced as she portrayed and showed this. Again, Pentecoid fell to rumination and thought, confused by this barrage of strange information. "But if the crab has the hard shell that I found on the island—" He hesitated as the girl nodded and then knocked her knuckles together to prove how hard the shell was. "Aha!" Pentecoid demanded, grabbing her by the wrist. "If the shell is so hard, how is it that Fishing Longlegs can cut it in half with his beak?" When Scarchin explained that the Susquehannock used that name for the great blue heron, and that he was referring to the manner in which the heron caught crabs, tossed them in the air, and cut them in half, the girl's expression became even more compassionate. "It's the soft crab," she explained. "The what?" "In the summer, we catch crabs that have no shell." Now, this was totally incomprehensible, and Pentecoid shook his head, but the girl continued. "They have no shell, and we roast them over the fire, and they are the best." Pentecoid could make absolutely nothing of this, and he was about to drop the whole discussion when a boy of about 9 summers moved beside the girl, and by a series of swift gestures of hand to mouth indicated that he himself could eat 4 or 5 of the no-shell crabs. This seemed preposterous and unbelievable, and Pentecoid turned away. But the daring boy tugged on his arm and repeated the pantomime. He could indeed eat 5 no-shells. When the crowd dispersed to arrange ramshackle sleeping quarters for the night, Pentecoid retreated from the shore to his own wigwam. But before he fell asleep, he found Scarchin standing in the simple doorway. "Stay with us," the little man said, and Pentecoid made no reply. "The werewance is old now and sad." No comment. "The girl who caught the oyster for you, she is his granddaughter, and whenever he sees her, it causes pain." Now, This was impenetrable. It didn't understand. But the little man continued. Her father, the werewolf's son, who should be in command now, died of the fever, and the girl reminds him of this loss. Now, Pentecoid saw no reason to respond to any of this, so in the darkness the little interpreter remained in the doorway, content to watch the shadowy form of the tall Susquehannock who had made this day so memorable. At last, when night surrounded the village, the former slave of the Susquehannocks slipped away. In the following weeks, the ensuing weeks, the villagers rebuilt their wigwams and instructed and taught Pentecoid in their language, a much simpler one than his. In all ways, this tribe lived on a less complicated level than the Susquehannocks. Their werewolves had little power, and their possessions were fewer. Their medicine man was not so formidable and strong as the mysterious shamans of the north, and for him to try to enforce decisions of life and death would have been laughable. He was a good luck charm and nothing more. The little old werewolf was named Orapak, and he was past 60 and must soon die, but was allowed to retain his office because there was none to challenge him and to be chief instead. He was a wise old man and gentle too, and for many years he had kept his tribe out of serious trouble. When the Nanticokes come north to fight us, we flee farther north, he explained. And when the Susquehannocks come south to fight us, we flee to the south. Doesn't that take you into Nanticoke country? No, because when we flee south, we go into the marshes, and the Nanticokes wouldn't dare follow us. He hesitated. Mosquitoes, you know. I know, said Pentecoid. Last summer I lived in the marsh. Brave man, the werewolf said, and then he asked, Why do you think we leave our village each summer? What good do mosquitoes do? Asked Pentecoid, whereupon the old man raised his eyes to heaven and replied, On that first day, Scarchin here told you of how Manitou gave this river everything, and then one more thing, the crab. Well, when that was done, he said, Now, how will I keep men from becoming arrogant and proud? And he threw in the mosquito. Why? Asked Pentecoid. To remind us that he can do anything he pleases, and we have to like it. Pentecoid decided that now was the time to raise the question of his membership in the tribe. The river is excellent. I enjoyed it when I lived here alone. The werewolf studied this declaration and then blew out his cheeks, signifying that he appreciated the gravity and seriousness of what had been said. The Susquehannock was pointing out that he had acquired possession of the place after the villagers had deserted it. He was intimating ownership, even though many warriors were available to contest it. And Orapak realized how powerful this stranger was. Quite likely, he could defeat any of the warriors who up till now had defeated nobody. Warily, he said, It would be good if you stayed with us. Adding hastily, In the wigwam that's already yours. Pentecoid replied. "I would like that." And no more was said about his citizenship. He continued to occupy his wigwam, which women showed him how to finish properly, and he began paying court to Navitan, the Werewance's granddaughter. At 17, she had been eyeing some of the young warriors during the summer encampment, but nothing much had happened, and now she showed herself receptive to the moves the tall Susquehannock was making. They were married before the first snow, and the old women were delighted that their Navitan had caught herself such a daring man, and the shaman who performed the ceremony gave it his opinion that Manitou himself had sent Pentecoid to protect this village. In the division of labor common to tribes along the Chesapeake, Pentecoid specialized in cutting tall trees, shaping them and burning out their interior so that canoes could be built. He also became the expert in hunting geese, those remarkable birds, those remarkable fowl that he had known simply as big birds. From oak and pine he carved 18 rude likenesses of geese sculptures, and colored them with earthen paints discovered by the tribes, and these he placed at strategic spots related to wind and shore, luring the birds so close that he rarely missed with his strong bow. But the killing of a goose always bothered him, for although he loved the taste of the roasted meat, he did not like to see the stately birds destroyed. It was at the end of winter when the sad night came. Navitan had been scraping the reef for oysters when she saw a flock of geese in a cornfield acting strangely. The males were running at one another, and the yearlings were restless, gathering twigs as if to build nests they knew they did not need. Uneasy chatter murmured through the flock when suddenly an old gander, an old male goose, much heavier than the rest, ran awkwardly a few steps, flapped his great wings, and soared into the air. In an instant that whole field of geese flew aloft, circled a few times, and then set out resolutely and determinedly for the north. From the other fields, which Navitan could not see, other flocks rose in the air, and soon the sky was dark with great black and gray geese flying north. "Oh," she cried, alerting the village, "they're leaving." No one required to be told who was leaving. The geese, those notable birds on whom the tribe had feasted for generation after generation, were quitting the river. In 9 days there would not be a goose visible anywhere, and to see them flying north, to hear them honking as they prepared and left to the distant ice-bound fields on which they would raise their young, was a moment of such sadness that many of the older men and women wept. For the great geese had been their calendars and the counting of their years. Now the werewance appeared, white and stiff-legged, with his face to the sky, and after he had cast his blessing on the geese, the shaman uttered the timeless prayer. "Great Power, you who watch over us and establish the seasons, guard the geese as they leave us. Watch over them as they fly to distant areas. find them grain for their long flight, and keep them from storms. They are our need, our protection from hunger, our sentinels and guardians at night, our companions through the winter, our source of food and warmth, our tenants on the land, our watchmen in the sky, the guardians of our streams, the chatterers at the coming and going. Great power, protect them while they are gone from us, and in due season bring them back to this river, which is their home and ours. No child made a sound, for this was the most sacred moment of the year. If the mysteries were not properly cast, the geese might fail to return, and the winter, when that occurred, would be terrible indeed.